As a result of Russia's war?
Right, so we have to keep this in mind that the Arctic is warming twice as fast as everywhere else on the planet, and most of the Arctic is in Russia. And there was a huge study looking at the melting permafrost there, and what the melting permafrost does is it emits these greenhouse gases into our atmosphere. Well, that study was now suspended, and one scientist I heard from says they're very concerned now, Lindsay, because that could lead to severe miscalculations when it comes to how aggressively we must pursue our emissions reductions. There are real global consequences there, Lindsay.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am Sandy Shellis, and with me is Jennifer Hines. And welcome. I must sound like I'm yelling. I don't know why. Hi, Jen.
Hi. Good to
Hi.
see you. Good to see everybody
Welcome.
tonight. I'm so
Yeah.
excited about our show tonight, Sandy. It's going to be so interesting.
Oh, yeah, it is interesting. We're going to cover the
Yeah.
Arctic gamut, actually. I mean, and we even have an intermission video and everything. And not that I made either. It's just a YouTuber, but it's interesting. So what's going on? We have a full house, actually. Maybe before I talk, I ask you to go over the from the moon view of the whole thing. I'll just say hi to Poppy and Kim and Karen and Rich and Singing Way. She's here. And Matt Hunter, Kim and Matt are our mods, and Melanie Danless, Dennis, Trish Kaiser, and Philip Blair. Hello. So take it away. Oh, Gary Ballard and Patty P. So take it away, Jen.
Well, tonight is pretty much about the ice on our planet and what is going on. And it's amazing how much news there is. So our first article is going to be from the National Snow and Ice Data Center in Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
Arctic sea ice at maximum extent for 2021. So that'll just kind of be a brief update, a look at the maximum sea ice in the Arctic as it is right now. Oh, and by the way, everybody, happy equinox. I believe it's the equinox today. So we're moving into spring.
Can't tell by my house we had snow. I'm so sick of weather whiplash. It was 72 days ago and we had snow today, but not a lot.
Oh, did you really?
Oh, yeah. Very annoying.
Yes. All right. Now, number 2 is from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute. Mapping reveals rapid changes to the Arctic seafloor as ancient submerged permafrost thaws. This is so amazing. This is what everybody is talking about right now. Paul Beckwith made a huge video about this. And it kind of looks like a decaying orange or something, right, Sandy? As they're all kind of caving in. It's just like crazy. So sure, that'll grab our attention. Then our next one's going to be from space.com. Satellites show Arctic sea ice is melting even faster than scientists realized. It's thinned 5 feet in just 3 years. That's why I always
Unreal.
say it's all about the thickness. It's not about the, extent. The extent is a manifestation of something, but it doesn't it's all about the thickness and the
And as
volume
you
up
see
in the
behind
Arctic.
Jennifer is permafrost, and behind me it's permafrost.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
the permafrost, and that was
yeah.
a pretty sizable chunk. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And then we have an article from Time, actually. Ukraine's conflict has rippled all the way to the Arctic Circle. So we'll get a little bit of a geopolitic perspective.
From
Then
time.
we've got something from US, what's this? US News, usnews.org, something like that. Norwegian officials, Russian Arctic expansion making security landscape difficult. Just out
USNI. Yeah, it's
USNI. Okay, what
yeah.
is
I'll
that?
when
What
we
is
get there.
USNI?
We'll play around with it, and
Okay.
I'll show you.
Okay, cool. And then we'll have a little intermission with a little video, which I'm sure everybody will love. And then we're going to jump back in with govtech.com University Research Taps.
Matt asked for it. I had to make him happy. Sorry.
There you go.
It's a
Makes me all
shorter one,
happy
Matt.
too. No, it's
Yeah.
very happy.
I got a couple
You
of new
can't
ones.
be sad listening to
No,
that song, that
no, I
sound.
have a
It's
couple of new
impossible.
ones, Jen. New ones, new ones.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
you'll be excited.
can't wait. I can't wait.
God. Oh.
All right. Government technology. This is university research taps satellites to see climate change. So we'll take a look at that. And then this is so scary. It's 70 degrees warmer than normal in eastern Antarctica. Scientists are flabbergasted.
Oh, yes, they are. Yes. So yes, we have a full show, and we're going to get started. Jen's going to do the
Am I?
national snow, and yeah, it's nothing much. It's just what's going on up there, and I'm going to pull it up.
What's going
Let
on?
what is going on at the NR National Snow and Ice Data Center. So basically,
That's right.
we'll just go over what's this was from March 22.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's I guess this week's edition, right? Arctic sea ice at maximum extent for 2021. Arctic sea ice has likely reached its maximum extent for the year at 14.77 million square kilometers, which is
Mhm.
5.7 million square miles, on March 21st, of course, so I guess tomorrow, or depending on where you are today. Uh, According to scientists at the National Snow and Ice Data Center, NSIDC, at the University of Colorado in Boulder.
Yeah.
The,
Let's
the
hear it for Boulder.
2021, let's hear it for Boulder. The 2021 maximum is tied with 2007 for the seventh lowest in the 43-year satellite record. So here's a pretty extensive picture, and it shows you how this maximum sea ice extent is comparing to the median ice edge from 1981 to 2010. So basically, they took a 30-year average, which they ended at 2010, and how we're doing compared to that. So we're in substantially. I mean, notable is definitely right up in the Kara Sea, right above Novaya Zemlya. Do you see that?
Mhm.
That's where it's really cut away. And that's not incredibly surprising considering that was a nuclear test site hotspot
Yes. Sure was.
And what's it, Zaya Bomba, or what the heck was that hugest nuclear bomb that it ever went off in the history of nuclear bombs? Russians blew it up, I think, in the early 60s.
Oh.
That was on Novaya Zemlya. Yeah,
Yes. Novaya Zemlya.
yeah, that's right.
Now, we're not going to
That's
be able
right.
to have our scientists go back to Novaya Zemlya either.
Right.
Or,
And I
yeah.
guess the other thing that we should note where it's really pulled away, if you go on further down the picture, you can see down by Nova Scotia, I guess it is. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure. Is that Nova Scotia? Right by the United States. All that, there used to be ice impacting all along there. So it's really it's not really surprising because the Atlantic is so warm. And of course, we know what warm water does to ice.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
So that's the
So,
update. I mean, there's more, of course, and you can always go into the website, but that's the
yeah.
update. But we have some this is the interesting article from the Monterey
Right.
Bay Aquarium Research Institute. This is the article that I guess everybody's talking about. Mapping reveals the rapid changes to the Arctic seafloor as ancient submerged permafrost that thaws. Now, this is what I imagine it sounds like underneath that water. It's a bubbling away, baby, bubbling away. And I guess I'll start with this one. Maybe, we'll tag team tonight, I guess. We can
Yeah.
tag team. How's that?
Yeah.
So,
That
across
sounds
the
fun.
Arctic, and I don't know, guys, is this too loud and disturbing? the,
I think
perma-
it's good.
the permafrost coming up. Numerous peer-reviewed studies show that thawing permafrost creates unstable land, which negatively impacts important infrastructure and impacts indigenous communities. So now this study from the MBARI researchers and their collaborators, published in Proceedings of National Academy of Sciences, finds the dramatic changes offshore, and it is the first to document how the thawing, and get this right, how the thawing of the permafrost submerged underwater at the edge of the Arctic Ocean is affecting the seafloor. Wow. I'm sure Jim's
Wow.
going to be interested in this whole
Oh, yeah.
yeah. About 1/4 of the land in the northern hemisphere is the frozen permafrost or frozen ground, or as Jennifer coined it, permamush, right? Because Gary was asking, is permamush a real word? And
Not a real word.
no,
Sorry. We
it's an
could get you
environment.
confused.
Yeah,
Don't go out in public and say it, please.
no,
Keep it to yourself.
it's an
That's our
ECH
It's
word.
our private little word.
Yeah. And so at the end of the last ice age, which was 12,000 years ago, melting glaciers and sea level rise submerged large swaths of the permafrost. So until just recently, though, this submerged permafrost had been largely inaccessible to researchers. But now, thanks to technological advancements, including MBARI's autonomous mapping robots, scientists are able to conduct detailed surveys and assess changes in the seafloor. So this graphic is the graphic. I don't know if I can make if I can make it
It's
bigger
amazing.
here. Let
Isn't
me
it
see how big.
amazing?
Yep, it's the way they map, and it shows the bathymetry of the Arctic shelf edge in the Canadian Beaufort Sea. This massive sinkhole developed in just 9 years. Wow. 9 years. Oh my God. So let's see here. The high resolution bathymetric, or am I saying that right? Bathymetric surveys in the Canadian Beaufort Sea have revealed in these changes in the seabed from 10 to 19. So using the autonomous mapping robots, scientists documented multiple large sinkhole-like depressions. The largest, the size of an entire city block of 6-story buildings.
Whoa.
And that had developed in less than a decade. And that's what Paul had talked about. And when Paul was doing this and I was listening the other day, I had to definitely do a double take on that one. You know, I was imagining it in my head. How big? Yes. How big this is. Oh my gosh. So we know that big changes are happening across the Arctic landscape, but this is the first time we've been able to deploy technology to see that changes are happening offshore too, said Charlie Paul, who is the geologist at the MBARI, who led the study with Scott Dallimore from the Geological Survey of Canada, Natural Resources Canada, and an international team of researchers. So while the underwater sinkholes we have discovered are the result of longer-term glacial, interglacial climate cycles, we know the Arctic is warming faster than any region on the Earth. And as climate change continues to reshape the Arctic, it's critical that we also understand changes in the submerged permafrost offshore. And Jennifer, take it away, girlfriend.
Since 2003, MBARI has been part of an international collaboration to study the seafloor of the Canadian Beaufort Sea with the Geological Survey of Canada, the Department of Fisheries and Oceans Canada, and since 2013 with the Korean Polar Research Institute. That's a new one on me. Support for this work was provided by David and Lucille Packard Foundation, must be of Hewlett Packard, sounds like. Geological Survey of Canada, Fisheries and Oceans Canada, and the Korean Ministry of Ocean Fisheries. This research was made possible through international collaboration over the past decade that has provided access to modern marine research platforms such as MBARI's autonomous robotic technology and icebreakers operated by the Canadian Coast Guard and the Korean Polar Research Institute, said Dallimore. The Government of Canada and the Inuit people who live on the coast of the Beaufort Sea highly value this research as the complex processes described have implications for the assessment of geohazards, creation of unique marine habitat, and our understanding of biogeochemical processes. Repeated mapping of the seafloor with ship-based sonar and an autonomous underwater vehicle, which is also known as an AUV, were critical to this work. MBARI's mapping AUVs can resolve the bathymetry of the seafloor down to a resolution of 1 meter square grid, roughly the size of a dinner table. These self-guided robots have been instrumental in enabling detailed visualization of the seafloor and documenting changes over time. In 2010, while conducting the first systematic multi-beam mapping surveys as of part of the shelf edge and slope in the Canadian Beaufort Sea, researchers found a band of unusually rough seafloor terrain along a 95-kilometer stretch of the shelf, roughly 180 kilometers offshore, along what was once the seaward limit of relict Pleistocene permafrost. Wow, this is old permafrost. Repeated surveys allowed researchers to begin to understand the process of creating the distinctively rugged seafloor terrain in the Canadian Beaufort Sea. The 3 subsequent multi-beam surveys with AUVs in 2013 and 2017, and by ship in 2019, provided high-resolution maps of the smaller areas of 4.8 square kilometers near the edge of submerged permafrost 120 to 150 meters deep, to help researchers understand the processes responsible for the unique seafloor features first observed in 2010. So 12 years ago, right, Sandy?
12 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
The differences measured in these surveys over a 9-year period provided 3 snapshots of rapid and dynamic changes in the seafloor morphology. Researchers documented the formation of new, irregularly shaped, steep-sided depressions. The largest was an oval-shaped depression 28 meters deep,
Wow.
225 meters long, and 95 meters wide. The research team attributes these changes to intermittent seafloor collapse due to the gradual warming of the permafrost sediment frozen beneath the Arctic shelf since the end of the last ice age. Congratulations, fucking humans. You did it. Good
Yeah.
job.
All
Yay,
right. Well, I
team.
guess we
Here
should
we
give Yay
go.
Team. Yeah, Yay Team. Yay, humans, here we go.
All right. The degradation of terrestrial Arctic permafrost is attributed in part to increases in mean annual temperature from human-driven climate change. The changes the research team documented derive from much older, slower climatic shifts related to our emergence from the last ice age, and similar changes appear to have been happening all along the seaward edge of the former permafrost for thousands of years. We don't have a lot of long-term data for the seafloor temperature in the Canadian Beaufort Sea, but the available data do not show a warming trend, which ruled out anthropogenic climate change driving the dramatic changes in the seafloor terrain. Instead, heat carried slowly in a slowly moving groundwater system is driving these changes, explained Paul. That's very interesting. They
It
say it's
is.
not climate
Really?
change. They say it's like this groundwater system that's also hot.
Also hot. Yeah.
All right.
It's hot, hot,
Well, whatever.
hot, hot.
Hot,
Yes.
hot, hot.
Okay. I don't
Brackish
know.
groundwater generated from the thawed permafrost percolates upward along the bottom edge of the remaining relict permafrost bodies, accelerating the thawing of the permafrost in the sediments above. Water-filled cavities replace the excess ice that was once within the relict permafrost. Previously, permafrost-filled subsurface voids periodically collapsed to produce the large and rapidly formed sinkholes observed on the seafloor. The research team also documented other distinct seafloor features created by water from thawing permafrost.
Wow.
Yeah. In the areas where groundwater discharge is more limited, the bottom ocean waters kept the near seafloor sediment temperatures low enough for the ascending brackish waters to refreeze as they approach the slightly colder seafloor.
Wow.
When the ice near seafloor sediment freezes, it expands, creating pingos, circular hills with cores of ice. The map of the seafloor revealed an abundance of pingos adjacent to the main discharge area. While pingos were previously viewed primarily as terrestrial landform, this study has confirmed these features are in fact submarine pingos. The density of these pingos is the highest known anywhere, which makes perfect sense because it's all that water pressure on top, so it would compact it a lot more. The ongoing melting of relict permafrost under the Arctic shelf, expulsion of brackish waters, and the formation of new ground ice within near seafloor sediments work in concert to create the unique and rapidly changing morphology observed in the Arctic seabed, said Paul. These rapid changes to the seafloor demand our attention. We need to understand how the decay of the relict submarine permafrost will impact the vast areas underlying the Arctic continental shelves. This groundbreaking research has revealed how the thawing of submarine permafrost can be detected and then monitored once baselines are established. End quote.
Pretty hairy. Want me to go?
Yeah.
All
Sure.
right. It's a long one, but we wanted to cover this one. It was It was different and good. The team expects similar processes may also be occurring in other submarine permafrost systems. Now, how widespread similar changes are on the Arctic shelves remains unknown, as this is one of the first areas in the Arctic studied with multiple multi-beam bathymetric surveys. However, permafrost thawing may be an important process in sculpturing the seafloor throughout the Arctic. The research team will return to the Arctic this summer aboard the RV Aeron, a Korean icebreaker. This trip with MBARI's longtime Canadian and Korean collaborators, along with addition of the United States Naval Research Laboratory, will help refine our understanding of the decay of submarine permafrost. And I'm really proud of the Koreans on this one with us, too.
Wow.
I really am.
Yeah. Yes.
Two of MBARI's AUVs will map the seafloor in remarkable detail, and their little mini ROV, a portable, remotely operated vehicle, will enable further exploration and sampling to complement the mapping surveys. So the Canadian Beaufort Sea, which is a remote area of the Arctic, has only recently become accessible as climate change drives the retreat of the sea ice. So learning about the fragile Arctic environment before it becomes further altered by the expanding human presence is especially important. It is so important and urgent. This ongoing research in the Arctic and the upcoming expedition exemplify MBARI's mission to advance ocean science and technology to understand a changing ocean. And Jennifer, before we go on, I really kind of want to say, let's hope that, because this is in the Canadian Beaufort Sea, that this stupid war, and I say stupid war because it's a stupid war, because war is stupid. I mean, what do you want me to go? I'm not going to go into all of that, but we actually do have some on that to come. But I hope it doesn't get in the middle, because it is now stopped in its tracks. As you saw in the beginning video that I played with our opening video, that the permafrost research is just stopped dead in its tracks. Done. And without that, it's going to put us back. It's going to put us back. Yeah. We are so, WASF.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to move on. And the next one is the satellites show Arctic sea ice is melting even faster, which, that's what is that? That's like the even faster. We've been saying this for how long?
The only thing that surprises me about this faster than expected meme in all its variations is that anybody is surprised. Really? Are you really surprised?
Sorry. No, yeah, exactly. Nobody's surprised.
No, totally. Nobody's surprised.
Who's surprised? But you know who's surprised?
Scientists are shocked. I always love it how emotional scientists are. They're never emotional any other time, but all of a sudden when it comes to this, scientists are shocked. They're always shocked. Right. I'm like, wow.
And don't forget the new science. Don't forget the new science. If you watch the Facing Future video, there's new science. And the new science is saying that if we stop burning fossil fuels, we won't get any hotter. That's the new science. But I have to do more research. But that's new science. That is. It's,
I don't believe it.
The new science. Well.
Is it true? What about all the feedbacks? What about all the self-reinforcing feedbacks that are underway and unraveling by their own? And what about all the 25 years of carbon dioxide? Okay, so new science as in very facetious. We're not taking this seriously.
No, it's serious. If they had,
really?
I made a very lengthy comment on Facing Future's video on it, because it's the Michael Mann new science. It's that they've now discovered things are different. Jennifer, I haven't researched it yet. I
This
haven't
must
sent
be like
you
the new math or something. I don't know.
the new math.
I do you see
Oh,
that I'm
God.
slightly skeptical?
The new math.
I mean, yeah, I'm slightly skeptical
God.
just because we've been looking at this so hard for a decade, and then all of a sudden there's new science. It's
Well,
like,
but the
wow,
thing is,
I'm
if
relieved.
we
Actually, I'm
have to
relieved.
stop burning. I mean, I want to stop burning fossil fuels more than the next one. Of course, I do. I hate
Yeah.
them. They smell. They're
Oh, yeah.
awful. You have to drill them. Yes, if we go green energy, it's still going to be mined. It's going to be awful in its own way. And to stop fossil fuels, you're still going to have to use fossil fuel equipment to mine, to get the lithium and the other shit to make to make green energy work.
Yeah.
I just, and then there's the whole controversy of the class. I'm getting myself all worked up. Maybe we should go to the article. The aerosol masking effect. Some people think it's true. Some people don't think it's true. Yeah, we just have to. I need a breath. I need a breath. Hey, Guy O. Smith. Maybe I'll say hello to a couple of people. Die 42, Guy O. Smith, Rick Small, Jeffrey Pearson. Hey, Old Sage Joe. All right, Human Love, Gene. All right, Bila. Okay, we've got a bunch of people joining us.
That's
Good.
great. That's
All right, so I guess we could
Hi,
go
guys.
on. Yeah, I guess I am a little worked up because I hurt. And when I'm like my shoulder hurts and working on the show, for some reason sitting just kills me. So I am
Yeah.
I am worked up. But I look at this, all this stuff. This shit works me up. It just does. All right.
Yeah.
Jennifer,
All right.
go for
Let's
it.
take it away.
And I can't
Let's
get
take
rid
it
of the
away.
crap on the bottom either. See that thing that says The Sopranos? Do you see it on the bottom of the
There you
article?
go. Look at your Yeah, mine
right.
doesn't have any of that.
Oh, it doesn't? Well, just
Mm-mm.
really funny. I came up with Vladimir Soprano. That's his name. Vladimir Soprano.
Huh.
I don't know. I see it on the bottom, but anyway, that was my joke. Vladimir's he's a gangster, so he's Vladimir Soprano. He probably watched the whole thing. He probably watched The Sopranos and loved it. All right, that's enough politics for now. Let's go. Take it away, Jen.
There you go, without missing a beat. From space.com, satellites show Arctic sea ice is melting even faster than scientists realized. Undoubtedly, they're shocked. It's thinned 5 feet in just 3 years. This is freaking scary. A new study based on NASA and ESA satellite data shows that the Arctic sea ice is thinning at, quote, a frightening rate. Measuring this ice via satellites each month from 2018 to 2021, polar scientist Sara Kanchimi of the California Institute of Technology's Jet Propulsion Laboratory and Ron Kwok, the University of Washington's Applied Physics Laboratory, observed that it thinned 5 feet during that period. Quote, we weren't really expecting to see this decline for the ice to be this much thinner in just 3 years, Kachimi said in a statement.
I'm not showing
released
this
by the
article. It's driving me nuts.
American
Just read it.
Geophysical Union, which published the new research in one of its journals. Each year, seasonal ice melts entirely in the summertime, so naturally, the ice does get thinner during this period. But the 1.5 meter loss was recorded in what scientists call multi-year ice, thicker ice that sticks around for all year long and typically accumulates year over year. The loss represents about 16%
Wow.
of the multi-year ice's
16%.
volume. 16% in 3 years
What can we
wiped
use for that
out.
one? Boom. I told you I got some new ones.
Yeah, It's bad.
It's
To
bad.
determine the sea ice's thickness, researchers measured the height of the ice above sea level, taking into account the depth of the snow atop the ice, as that affects how the ice floats. For their study specifically, Kachimi and Kwok used LiDAR data from NASA's ICESat-2 and radar data from European Space Agency's Cryosat-2. Both approaches bounce a beam of light off the surface of the Earth and time how long the signal takes to return, using speed of light to more precisely measure the depth of snow and the height of ice below it. I mean, it just blows me away that we have
Mm-hmm.
this technology. It's kind of amazing. But
It's very amazing. Yeah.
that's how they do it. That's how they do it.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, this is the first time anyone has several years worth of data from the difference between LiDAR and radar data for snow depth. Robbie Mallet, a polar ice researcher at University College London, who did not participate in the study, he said in a statement. Kachimi and Kwok placed the results of their research within the context of 18 years by adding measurements taken from NASA's ICESat, which operated from 2003 to 2010. All told, the scientists determined that Arctic sea ice has lost one-third of its volume over the past 2 decades due to the decrease in multi-year ice and the increase in seasonal ice. Quote, current models predict that by the mid-century, we can expect ice-free summers in the Arctic when the older ice thick enough to survive the melt season is gone.
I don't know, Jennifer. Mid-century, you know, there's so much discussion on mid-century. It's a hard one.
I don't know. No. I think it's going to happen far before that. At least by 20 years before that. I think.
Wow.
I don't think there's any chance of having summer sea ice by 2050. I think
we'd
be long gone. We'd be long gone.
Yesterday's video with Kevin and Guy and Beryl and Jim and John, they are completely convinced. You know, it's on Nature Bat Last. If you're into it, it's it was, you know, eye-opening, and of course always like to watch Jim and Kev and the whole bunch. You learn from everyone, you know, from everyone. So we will move then. I guess we'll move on to, I'm going to take this one because I'll start this one. This is the Ukraine has rippled, the conflict has rippled all the way to the Arctic Circle. Wow. So let's get this one started and stop me from screwing up the screen. The effects of the conflict in Ukraine have rippled across the globe, sending more than 2 million refugees fleeing and driving up gasoline prices. Oh my gosh, gasoline prices. Everybody's so goddamn worried about. Why is this not working now with the screen share? Can you guys give me a second to fix this? I know that it's just always something with me, but
you want me to?
I got it. I got it. Just took 1 second, and it was just because I pushed something. So they're driving up heating bills in Europe, the cost of bread in the Middle East, and even the price of potato chips around the world. But one of the most significant impacts for the future of global warming, at least, is the unfolding thousands of miles away in the Arctic, where vital research on carbon emissions just came to that screeching halt. Absolutely awful. Right as Russia decided to attack Ukraine, a global consortium of permafrost scientists, right? They were just going to start multi-year Arctic ice monitoring effort that would have helped provide crucial data on how the region is warming. But international uproar and financial sanctions over the unprovoked invasion put an immediate stop to any scientific collaboration with Russian researchers. Jennifer, I'm sorry, but the war, it definitely, I'm going to do this. This is the war. It gets our environmental coffee house flush of the day, because we are losing our ability to research with these wonderful Russian researchers that we have done so much great work with. And it's just absolutely horrible. So at least half of our work would have been in Russia. And now we can't do any science there at all, said Sue Natali, Arctic Program Director for the Woodwell Climate Research Center in Massachusetts, who now has a couple of pallets worth of methane and carbon monitoring equipment originally destined for the Russian research stations lying unused in the back of her research center. Well, maybe they can hurry up and put something together to do it in our own permafrost in Alaska. I don't know, though. I mean, it costs a lot of money. But as the conflict progresses, experts worry that eroding political cooperation among Arctic nations could see environmentally harmful Russian activities in the region go unchecked, further worsening the effects of climate change. So after the Amazon rainforest, the Arctic is the second largest carbon sink, which we know, in the world, locking approximately 1.5 trillion metric tons of organic carbon, twice as much as Earth's atmosphere currently holds, under thick layers of frozen soil and ancient plant matter called permafrost. Well, at least for now, the region is warming 4 times faster than the planet. As the Arctic heats up, permafrost thaws, releasing stores of planet-warming carbon and methane gases in a continuous feedback loop. So that feedback loop, it threatens to turn the Arctic into a net carbon emitter. Net carbon emitter, guys, instead of a carbon sink, locking the planet on a cataclysmic climate. Cataclysmic, they say, right? Do you hear that one? Cataclysmic. And that is the trajectory that they say we are on. The problem with the Arctic's carbon flux, as the exchange of environmental gases between land and atmosphere is called, is that no one knows when or under what conditions the tipping point might occur, because scientists don't have a baseline data. They don't have it on how much carbon the region is absorbing or emitting at any given place or time. So a better understanding of the carbon flux in the Arctic is one of the most important elements of understanding and predicting climate change in the world today, says Natali. This is one of the largest and most vulnerable carbon pools on the planet. The region is warming faster than anywhere else, and there are still so many unknowns. Having data from the Russian Arctic is essential. Essential. It is. We cannot just ignore what's happening with permafrost in Russia. It's a massive blind spot. So an intensifying conflict in Ukraine, however, could have repercussions in the Arctic that go way, way beyond the permafrost study. You know, Jennifer, maybe we can get her as a guest.
Oh my God.
I mean, what's she doing?
Amazing?
Now she's not doing anything.
She's
so
sitting around and she has a bunch of equipment and she wants to talk. Definitely.
Yeah, I think, what do you guys think? I think we should try to get Dr. Natali on. Of course, I have a list of people, and I think she might be quite wonderful. So why don't we then move on? And guys, we see your comments. We will get to you guys at the end. We're going to move on, and let me just read to you what this UNI, and then Jennifer, you're going to take this article, this USNI, and I want to, before I screw anything up so you don't see it, I'm trying to get to the about on them, but I'm not. I, I don't want to lose the article, but they say they are. Oh, about us. Okay, so it's the U.S. That was I knew it. I knew it. It's the U.S. Naval Institute. So we're going to
Okay.
hear from
I was
the.
wondering because of the little badge,
It
it looked
was.
all
I
official with
completely
their
forgot. I
little
completely
lifesaver or
forgot.
whatever it is.
Let me pull it up and I'll show you guys. I forgot. Sorry, forgive me. I mean, I went over this stuff 100 times. So this is the Navy, and
Yeah.
we will.
There you
You
go.
will. You can read this. Let me get that back up
Right.
for you, and let's hear what the Navy has to say,
Okay,
whether we
okay.
believe it or
Nor
not.
Norwegian officials quote or colon Russian Arctic expansion making security landscape difficult. Let's see what this is about.
I read it. You
Russia's
didn't.
heavy investment
Yeah.
in new ballistic missile submarines and
Ugh.
long-range precision strike weaponry signaled the Kremlin's will to change NATO's ability to
Challenge. Yep.
reinforce oh the
Yeah. They
the
want to
Kremlin's
challenge them.
will to challenge NATO's ability to reinforce the high north in a crisis, Norway's top diplomat said on Friday. The security landscape is getting more difficult, Ian Erickson Sorority said at the Atlantic Council on Friday. Russia has built up a military presence in the Arctic over the last 10 years and deployed advanced strategic weapons, including submarines and missiles. The Kremlin also has built new air bases, giving its air force a longer reach into the Atlantic. Norway is the only NATO member bordering Russia. So it is monitoring the military buildup and increased civilian economic development on the other side of the border closely, according to Frank Bach Jetson, Norway's Minister of Defense. Adding another dimension to military challenges in the Arctic, he identified the Barents Sea as optimal
Horrible.
to test new weapon
Oh
systems
my God.
for Russia's armed forces. Norway is NATO's eyes and ears.
It makes me
Norway
want to
is
cry.
Remember, Sandy, when we were talking to Tomas Nilsson, his house is like 10 miles. He's in the north of Norway, and
Yeah.
his place is like 10 miles from the Russian border. And there's also a inlet there, the ocean, and they see these big Russian military ships going all the time. Norway is NATO's eyes and ears to the north. She also noted that Norway is different from other Arctic nations with its ice-free waters caused by the flow of the Gulf Stream from North America across the Atlantic, making it strategically important geographically. Russia shares both land and water borders with Norway. Historically, we meet Russia with firmness and predictability. But ever since 2014, when Moscow seized the Crimea region from Ukraine,
Mm-hmm.
Oslo has been more wary of the Kremlin's intentions across Europe. It cut off direct exchanges between the two militaries at this time. Quote, if we don't stand up to that overt aggression, as in Crimea and eastern Ukraine, who will? She questioned, referring to both the economic sanctions levied at Russian businesses and the individuals and a renewed commitment to security spending in the alliance. Bach Jensen, who has been the defense minister for 3 years, said Norway is meeting the 2% of gross domestic product spending target that NATO set in response to the Crimean seizure. He pointed to more recent buys of F-35 Lightning II Joint Strike Fighters and
Great.
P-8A Poseidon patrol
Oh boy.
aircraft. Oh boy, all these big toys.
Yeah, big
And new
toys for
submarines.
idiot
Big toys for big
boys.
boys.
And
And
girls. Some, but not really. Sorry.
not really. I mean,
No, not really. Because if women ran the world, we
right.
wouldn't be having this
No,
happen.
this
Sorry.
wouldn't be happening.
No.
This I am sorry, but this is a phenomenon of the patriarchy. All right. I mean, women have their problems too, but
Oh, we
this
do.
particular thing would not be happening. Believe me. Let's see. He added that Norway also upped its research and development security spending by 30% in recent years and said the investment can help with intelligence operations. In
Intelligence.
2009, yeah. In 2019, yeah, right. Is it intelligence? What do you want to call it? In 2019, the reported Norwegian defense budget was about 7.2 billion. While Norway continues to cooperate closely with Russia on nuclear safety issues, fisheries, and search and rescue in the Arctic, Sorty said that transparency hadn't translated into Moscow's sharing information with Oslo on the military exercises that it's holding near their shared border and waters.
Jesus Christ.
Do you want to take it?
Sure.
Yeah.
So Reed termed that they should be much more assertive. By contrast, she said, NATO and Norway itself during 2018 Trident Juncture exercise regularly informed Russia's Northern Fleet about what was transpiring to avoid any miscalculation. We're extremely open with our exercises, including regularly scheduled ones with American Marines, but we don't see the same thing from Russia. Now remember, guys, this is the Navy writing all this. So during the conference, 4 American Air Force 1B bombers were training with Norwegian Air Force, terming Russia a demanding neighbor. Becky Jensen said security cooperation has grown to include Nordic countries like Sweden and Finland and Baltic NATO members in regional training exercises. In the panel discussion following Becky Jensen's remarks, Henning Vegium, Director General for Security Policy in Norway's Defense Ministry, said that for all Nordic countries, there has been a renewed emphasis on defense and deterrence since 2004, I tell you, 2004. He called Sweden and Finland's militaries highly capable and said they are working effectively with NATO forces in the Arctic and the Baltic. Well, you know what? I'm not reading the rest of this because I think you guys...
Thank you.
You get it. I pulled it up because it was something... Look, there's a certain... that we have. It was something different. And it went... it kind of went with our... the little video I played in the beginning, which just was a snippet of the news from the research. And, you know, I mean, we're in a horrible, well, we supposedly are not in a horrible military predicament, but the world really is in a horrible military predicament because I don't know if this is going to end well. I mean, we really, who knows?
War doesn't end well.
For
anyone.
anyone.
That's kind of the lesson in war.
War
doesn't end well.
Yeah, look at Afghanistan. Mm-hmm.
Really brilliant move to do when we're basically going into climate change full force with all these full force, and now you just blow everything up. You know, it's horrible. It's really tragic. I mean, of course, human tragedy.
So I think we're going to take a break. I have a video I'm going to set up. I found this guy from Denver, and he has a website, and his name is Peter Zeeland. he's talking about Russian oil here, and it's something that, of course, we are not at all capable of discussing. But I thought it would be a great intermission since I have to stand up, and I hope he does not give us a copyright, but I don't think he will because he also used ABC. I'm only going to play 4 minutes of him. Very interesting topic, what he talks about. And he's from Denver, so I thought, let's give this a whirl.
Hey everybody, Peter Zion here, coming to you on March 18. It's about 6:30 p.m. in America's Mountain Time Zone. The new news is that Halliburton, which is the world's largest oil services firm and a firm that as a rule doesn't give two craps about public relations whatsoever, has decided to close down all of its operations in Russia. To be perfectly blunt, this is one of the things I was been waiting for. We have a sanctions package. We have several sanctions packages out of the European Union and the US and Japan and Korea and Taiwan and Canada and Australia. And apologies if I've left your country out. It's a big deal. But none of them include oil, or at least not on a large scale. Halliburton is one of the companies, along with Schlumberger and Baker Hughes, that went into the Russian space in the 1990s to help the Russians repair all the damage from the rapid shutdowns that occurred in the aftermath of the Soviet collapse. And I would argue that being generous to the Russians, about half of Russia's output is only possible because of the assistance of groups like these. Now, as long as the services firms were willing to remain in Russia, the only limitation for the Russians was going to be port infrastructure, pipeline capacity, insurance capability, and the willingness of countries to use their crude in the first place. But if you remove the services companies from the equation, it becomes impossible for the Russians to maintain their output in the first place. And this is quadruply true in places like eastern Siberia, where the fields are more complex, they're deeper, they tend to be smaller, and they tend to be further from population centers. And 100% of the oil that the Russians send to China comes from East Siberia. So we are now in a situation where the Chinese can look forward to getting less Russian energy rather than more because of the war. Anything that's going to be shifted from Russia's European sales can't make it to China easily. The two ports in question are Primorsk on the Baltic Sea and Novorossiysk on the Black Sea. Both of those are shallow water ports. They can't take super tankers. So for the Chinese to get crude from those locations, they have to hire a small shuttle tanker to take the crude, get it past the Danish Strait, get it past the Turkish Straits, at sea, load it onto a super tanker, and then sail it around Africa the long way in order to get East Asia, making it the single longest run in the world. Now, if Russian crude continues to sell at a $20 to $30 discount versus international benchmarks, there might be something to that. But of course, that assumes that the Americans and the Europeans and the Turks do absolutely nothing. And the Europeans are now working on their fifth sanctions package. So anyone who does decide to buy crude from those routes can look forward to losing all their money. Word to the wise. But back to the core point here. The Chinese are about to have a decline in their imports from Russia because of the war. Now, there are two reasons why the Chinese would be interested in backing the Russians. Number one is to get a lot of commodities for cheap. That is now going out the window. All that leaves is the general ideological opposition to all things American and European, with the idea that the West are the bad guys. Whether or not the Chinese are willing to continue supporting Russians in the war effort remains to be seen, because now it very clearly has a price, and it is a big one. So we didn't get any clarity out of the China-Biden summit today as to what it is that the Chinese are willing to do or what it is the Americans are going to do. But Biden supposedly laid out for the Chinese what would happen to China financially and economically if China does not shift gears in terms of their, wow, my hair is out of control. If the Chinese do not shift gears in terms of their general diplomatic and economic support for the Russians, well, now the price has been doubled and tripled. So we should be seeing some movement one way or out of another out of the Chinese, which is going to give us a lot of information about not just to their mindset, but the type of price that they are willing to move forward for things that they know they can't influence at all. Okay, that's it from me until the next hairstyle. Bye.
We advocate for the full ban.
Here is Peter's Twitter. If you guys want to learn more about Peter Zehan, I am hoping he does not. We don't get a copyright on that because he is he was using NBC or ABC after this, so. That's him. He's a geopolitical guy. He's a strategist. He's an author. He wrote books, The Accidental Superpower, The Absent Superpower, and Disunited Nations. And of course, Jennifer and I, we really don't handle a lot of this at all. But if you want to learn from this guy, if you're interested in him, I found the video. I thought it was interesting. And of course, his hair.
I know. That was so funny, right?
His hair. Yeah, there we go.
God.
All right, so we're going to move on. And we're going to move on to university research taps satellites to see climate change. And this is government technology. And this is the NSF. Researchers from, and this is really interesting, this one. Researchers from several institutions are using deep learning. Now, this is a whole new thing, this deep learning, to comb through satellite images for insights into climate change's impact on permafrost. And we will do this together here. So
Okay.
with advances, that's a nice picture. Look at that. Wow. With advances in deep learning and a trove of existing satellite imagery, researchers from several universities are collaborating to predict the topographical changes threatening the Arctic infrastructure as climate change melts away the planet's permafrost and ice caps. So according to a news release last week from the NSF, scientists with the NSF-led Navigating the New Arctic Climate Research Program recently applied deep learning, and this is where I think we need this. We need this, the deep learning, okay? And they are deep learning. It just gives me like, I feel like I want a massage. And sorry guys, but tonight we are using levity because things are just too serious not to. Anyway, so they're going to use that this whole thing, and the I'm going to move down to they're going to look at these ice wedge polygons, but her name is Chandra Witharana, and she is an assistant professor of natural resources and environment at the University of Connecticut. She is one of the lead researchers, and she said, despite the large amount of data collected by commercial satellites in recent years, the information has been difficult to translate into comprehensive research. But deep learning systems have the potential to change that. So together with Anna Lildahl, an Arctic researcher from the Woodwell Climate Researcher in Massachusetts, and others from the National Center for Supercomputing, which is where the deep learning comes from, applications, and CSA, Witharana said scientists hope to make existing data more accessible for climate scholars. Now, Jen, do you want me to do this one and then you can do the last one? Because
Sure.
we have one more. All right. So to better model and understand the response of the Arctic, one needs data, he said. The main idea is to understand the evolution of the Arctic and permafrost landscape using existing satellite imagery, so Arctic researchers can understand the impact of climate change on Arctic environments. We can fill in the gaps with satellite imagery. According to the team, permafrost, which covers about 15% of the northern hemisphere, acts as the biosink for biomass that stores as greenhouse gases, such as methane and carbon dioxide. As the planet permafrost thaws, these gases will be released, exacerbating the climate change and altering soil density, and creating issues for anything built on the top. Withrana said researchers still need a better method for predictive data analysis, but advanced satellite imaging techniques and remote sensing technology will help them monitor changes in the soil, which, Jennifer, it is pretty cool. You have to admit, this is pretty cool stuff. This could prove useful for public agencies and others tasked with maintaining and constructing vital infrastructure in the Arctic, such as roads, building, and pipeline, which, poop. I'm not particularly thrilled with hearing about the vital infrastructure, but people do live there. From field observation, scientists found that the Arctic permafrost is facing the increasing ground temperatures, and it's changing the micro topography, he said, adding that the ground is essentially collapsing due to global warming. So one critical aspect is this difference in settlement of the ground can affect Arctic infrastructure. According to the team, Withrana's research focuses largely on the use of neural networks to detect polygons, underground ice formations similar to honeycombs in shape from thousands of satellite images. Lildahl said examining changes to these polygons is crucial to gaining a clearer understanding of climate change's topographical impacts. Each year, we get a near real-time pulse meter on the Arctic in the form of sea ice extent, Lildahl said. We want to do the same with permafrost. So there are so many rapid changes. We need to be able to really understand and communicate what's happening in the permafrost. So according to the foundation, researchers are focused on analyzing different years and seasons in order to predict the topographical trends as well as where future changes may affect infrastructure. So this is a perfect example of how previous investments in computing infrastructure combined with a new understanding of deep learning techniques are building a resource to help with an important issue in the Arctic, NSF Program Director Kendra McLaughlin said in a public statement. So that's pretty damn interesting stuff, the research that's going to happen, if it can happen. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, that's pretty freaking fascinating.
And hopefully we will get more on it, and we can learn as it goes on, if it can go on, right? So
Yes.
I'm gonna hand it to you because the last one is the Washington Post, which but it's a big article, and I'm going to give it to you to take away because this is probably one of these things that made big news in the climate circles. So go for it.
Absolutely. All right. So this is about Antarctica, guys. It's 70 degrees warmer than normal in eastern Antarctica. Scientists are flabbergasted. Oh, we talked about that, right?
Yep.
The event is completely unprecedented and upended our expectations about the Antarctic climate system, one expert said. Expert until next week, and then he'll be flabbergasted.
He'll be flabbergasted. Okay.
Oh, jeez. All right. So let's take a look at the picture because this is pretty interesting. Do you see that big red thing right in the middle of eastern Antarctica?
The blob. The blob.
Big red blob.
Yep. The big red blob.
Yeah. Of course,
Do
this
tell.
is a temperature anomaly map, not real-time temperature, but how much the temperature is varying off of what it usually is. Now, East Antarctica's on fire. There's been a big atmospheric river that put a big high-pressure system and high temperatures over East Antarctica. So here we go. The coldest location on the planet has experienced an episode of warm weather this week, unlike any ever observed, with temperatures over the eastern Antarctic ice sheet soaring 50 to 90 degrees
Oh, that's one I
Oops.
didn't find. I didn't find the oops, but I did find the oh no. I
Oh
keep forgetting.
no!
I keep forgetting the oops.
The warmth, now listen to this, Sandy. The warmth has smashed records and shocked scientists. They're
They
shocked.
are. They're
They're
shocked.
shocked.
They're
They're
shocked.
shocked. This event is completely unprecedented and upended our expectations about the Antarctic climate system, said Jonathan Willey, a researcher studying polar meteorology at the Université
That's
Grenoble
scary.
Alpes in France, in an email. Antarctic climatology has been rewritten, tweeted Stefano Di Battista, a researcher who has published studies on Antarctic temperatures. He added that such temperature anomalies would have been considered impossible and unthinkable before they
Unreal.
actually occurred. So,
Mm.
consequently, he also is shocked. Part of eastern Antarctica have seen temperatures hover 70 degrees, and that's 40 degrees Celsius, above normal for 3 days and counting, Willie said. He likened the event to the June heat waves in the Pacific Northwest. Remember those, Sandy? That was shocking. That actually was very shocking. Which scientists concluded would have been virtually impossible without human-caused climate change. What is considered warm over the frozen barren confines of eastern Antarctica is, of course, relative. Instead of temperatures being minus 50 or minus 60 degrees, that's minus 45 to minus 51 Celsius, they've been closer to 0 to 10 degrees, and that's equivalent to minus 18 Celsius or minus 12 Celsius. But that's a massive heat wave by Antarctic standards. The average high temperature in Vostok at the center of the eastern ice sheet is about minus 63 degrees, which is minus 53 degrees Celsius in March. But on Friday, the temperature leapt to 0, which is minus 17 degrees Celsius. The warmest it's been there during March since record keeping began 65 years ago. It broke the previous monthly record by a staggering 27 degrees. Quote, in about 65 record years in Vostok between March and October, values above negative 30 degrees C were never observed. So this isn't even like a little bit hotter. This is like a lot hotter. Wrote Batista, he didn't say that last part, wrote Batista in an email. Vostok, a Russian meteorological observatory, is about 808 miles from the South Pole and sits at about 11,444 feet above sea level. It's famous for holding the lowest temperature ever observed on Earth, minus 128.6 degrees, which is minus 89 degrees Celsius. Wow, that's cold. Set in July of 1983, so that's like 40 years ago. We haven't touched that in 40 years. Temperatures running at least 50 degrees above normal have expanded over vast portions of eastern Antarctica, from the Adelie coast through much of the eastern ice sheet's interior. Some computer model simulations and observations suggest temperatures may have even climbed up to 90 degrees, which is 50 degrees Celsius, above normal in a few areas. Wow. Eastern Antarctica's Concordia research station, operated by France and Italy and about 350 miles from Vostok, climbed to 10 degrees, which is minus 12 Celsius, its highest temperature on record for any month of the year. Pooh. Pooh.
God.
Yeah. Wow. Average high temperatures in March are around minus 56. So check this out. This is a temperature anomaly map, and you see that beautiful, peppermint patty cream down by Antarctica. That
Lovely.
is the new colors they've had to put on this temperature anomaly map,
Unreal.
because they ran out of colors. So then they had to go into the whites for white hot. So yeah, there's a huge giant anomaly, more than even in the Arctic, going on in the Antarctic. And you bet you that's going to lead to a lot of melting. At a nearby weather station, the temperatures reached 13.6 degrees, about 67 degrees above average, according to University of Wisconsin Antarctic researchers Linda Keller and Matt Lazara. Keller and Lazara said in an email that such high temperature is particularly noteworthy since March marks the beginning of autumn in Antarctica rather than January, when there is more sunlight. At this time of year, Antarctica is losing about 25 minutes of sunlight each day. Willie said the normal conditions over Antarctica were spurred by an extreme atmospheric river or narrow corridor of water vapor in the sky on its east coast, hence what happened. According to computer models, the atmospheric river made landfall on Tuesday between the Dumont d'Urville and Casey stations and dropped an intense amount of rainfall, potentially causing a significant melt event in the area. Sandy, what do you think? You
I
think a
think
bunch of
it's
rainfall is it
scary, frightening.
potentially going to cause a significant
No,
melt
it's
event?
causing the melt. It's
It's
causing the
causing
melt.
it. It's
The word
causing it.
potential is just thrown in. It's causing
It's
the melt.
just
But then
thrown
again,
in.
we have to be careful with our words,
All right.
causation. But it is
All right.
to us, the
Yeah.
citizen
So
scientist.
so check out this tweet from Jonathan Willie, I guess it is, right? Uh and just to leave this satellite image from today, atmospheric river spreading clouds over East Antarctica. So this is a picture of the
Mm-hmm.
atmospheric river itself as it settled over East Antarctica and caused a
On
90
March
degree
17th. Mm-hmm.
90-degree temperature spike. Good
Mm.
Lord. The
Mm-mm-mm.
moisture from the storm diffused and spread over the interior of the continent. However, a strong blocking high pressure system or heat dome moved in over East Antarctica, preventing the moisture from escaping. The heat dome was exceptionally intense, 5 standard deviations above normal. No fucking kidding. That's hot, right? 5 standard deviations above normal. The excessive moisture from the atmospheric river was able to retain large amounts of heat, while the liquid rich clouds radiated the heat down to the surface, known as downward long wave radiation. Willie explained warm air is often transported over the Antarctic interior this way, but not to this extent or intensity. This is not something we've seen before, he said. This moisture is the reason why the temperatures have gotten so high. Models show the atmospheric river will exit the continent around Saturday, so that was yesterday, but the moisture will take longer to dissipate. Abnormally high temperatures in this region could last throughout the weekend. The abnormally high temperatures have caused some melting in the region, according to the models, which is unusual for this part of Antarctica, as this part of Antarctica doesn't experience much melt often
No.
until now. This is one melt event. This one melt event won't affect the stability of the glaciers in that area, though. Yeah. This event happened in a location that doesn't often have melt. Obviously, this doesn't mean that from now on we're worried that melting will happen. Well, good. Maybe he'll be shocked, Willie said. It's more like, oh, that's weird. That could happen more often in the future, and then this could be bad. Bing.
Could.
Yeah.
Will.
And it will. Willie said it's difficult to attribute this one event to climate change at the moment. Well, he's waking up, isn't he? But he does think that rising temperatures helped prime conditions for such an event. Yeah. Climate change is loading the dice for more situations like this. Willie and his colleagues are studying how climate change will affect the circulation patterns around the Antarctic and whether atmospheric rivers will become more common or more intense. Quote, we do believe they will become more intense because it's just simple physics, but the details, we're still trying to figure that out. It would be very difficult to say that there's not a climate change fingerprint on an event like this, right? Keller and Lazara suggested that more study is needed on the climate change connection. Quote, we can't tell whether this is going to be a new trend or is just an oddity that occurs occasionally on a most fascinating continent. Temperatures are, we're almost done. Temperatures are known to vary widely over Antarctica, and massive swings are common. Contrasting this warm spell over eastern Antarctica, the South Pole just observed its coldest April to September period record over the last year, with an average temperature of minus 78 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's wild.
Wow. Well, I thought we were almost done. Faked me out. But shortly after that historic bout of cold, the sea ice extent surrounding the continent shrunk to its smallest extent just last month. So now, that's another good thing to note. Well, not good, but it's another thing to note. Amid all of the variability in Antarctica, fingerprints of human-caused climate change are still evident. Its western ice sheet is losing mass, while western parts of the continent and peninsula are among the fastest warming regions on Earth. Warm ocean temperatures threaten to destabilize Antarctica Thwaites Glacier, a slab the size of Florida, that contributes about 4% of annual global sea level rise. Wow. Wow. And this is interesting. It shows the temperature anomaly between Wednesday and Friday when that
And that's up
cloud cover set over, that atmospheric river set in.
quite
Can happen so fast.
quite something, I'd say. Wow.
Yeah. The historically high temperatures in Antarctica follow a pulse of exceptional warmth on the planet's opposite end. On Wednesday, temperatures near the North Pole catapulted 50 degrees above normal, close to the melting point. So
that, my friend, is the end. So we have just given you guys a whole lot to think about in this show. We have been what have we been? An hour and 22 minutes of
longer than usual.
Yeah, for us, yeah. It just seems like the shows go longer because there's so much going on. And, we covered a gamut. We may not be the geopolitical experts here, but we know enough that it's going to screw up our research for climate change, that it's a possible nuclear war. We don't know, but we're sitting here together. And, sitting here together. What do you say, Jen? Should we take a few comments, see what they're talking about, or? Well, wait. Here's. Well, we have long. Jim. We have a quick one. Why is the pulse over Antarctica and not the ocean as well? Now that might be a Jim question.
Well, I think it was over the ocean as well. It had to go over the ocean to get to Antarctica. It didn't just appear. It crept down there across the Pacific Ocean. It ended up in East Antarctica.
Yeah. Well, listen. This has been a really, really good show. I've got to pick our goodbye video, which I haven't done yet. But, Jen, I really do look forward to Sundays because when we are together, it makes me feel better, even though things are so scary. They are scary. They're completely frightening. And we're here with you We have 76 people from around the world with us and listening and sharing all of the scary news with us. And we appreciate it. And it's yeah, almost like, well, no bullshit here says it's fun, almost like socializing. The thing is, you know, it's not fun when I'm putting all this together for me and Jen, or Jen is sending me stuff. It's not fun. It's horrifying, really. We're horrified by everything.
You bet.
But we are alive and we are here. And even with that horror, the kids are out there. Vox Terra, the guy I had on Friday night, he's trying to educate younger people on what's happening without scaring the shit out of them like we do. This is where we are. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys
coming.
for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I'm going to say goodnight. I love you guys. And we'll see you Wednesday. I will see you Wednesday, and I've got some guests coming up, and we'll let you know.
Tonight, a very important piece of Arctic climate research has been halted as a result of Russia's war.
Right, so we have to keep this in mind, that the Arctic is warming twice as fast as everywhere else on the planet, and most of the Arctic is in Russia. And there was a huge study looking at the melting permafrost there, and what the melting permafrost does is it emits these greenhouse gases into our atmosphere. Well, that study was now suspended, and one scientist I heard from says they're very concerned now, Lindsay, because that could lead to severe miscalculations when it comes to how aggressively we must pursue our emissions reductions. There are real global consequences there, Lindsay.